Okay, so let's talk for a minute about brand, specifically your personal brand, because I see a lot of people who are really working hard to try and develop theirs in this new creator economy, especially. Everybody seems to be working on their brand. And if you are watching this video, I would imagine you have been working on yours for a little while, and my guess is it is not going very well. That you're having a lot of trouble getting traction, getting awareness for what it is that you're doing. And you can't really understand why, because you're following all the advice out there that people are doing, and you're watching what other people are doing, and you're trying to do the same thing, and it's not working for you. And today I'm going to explain why. And then I'm going to show you how the specific steps that you need to use to start developing a really solid personal brand. Okay. And the first thing you understand is that everybody has a personal brand. We all do. It's called your reputation. Now, some people are very deliberate about manufacturing theirs and that what they want to be known about them and not, and other people leave it to chance. And that's really what we're talking about when we talk about personal brand. We're talking about how do I deliberately and intentionally let people know what I'm about before maybe anybody, before they get to know me, right? What do I want known about me and said about me by others when I'm first introduced to someone new, right? And so the reason most of it doesn't work, and most of the branding advice that you see today, is because most of it can be whittled down to be your authentic self, which sounds really good. Like, be your authentic self. People will be attracted to you, and you'll get the right kind of people. So that's what people are really looking for, is authenticity today in this hyper-connected world. You want to feel a sense of connection with people, and that sounds awesome, right? That may make sense logically. It's just not true, right? Yes, we want to create authenticity. We want people to see us as authentic. But the problem with saying just be authentic is, well, what does that mean? Because we are several different versions of ourselves at any given time, right? Sometimes at the same time. So of course, we have our perceived self, right? And that's the person that we think we are. And that's the person that we think other people think we are, the way we think other people perceive us. And then we have what's called our ought self. And our ought self is the person that we think we should be. Not necessarily the person we want to be, but the person that we think that we should be. So somebody who is more charitable, who's less quick to anger, who actually likes going to PTA meetings, who goes to church every Sunday. Whatever it is for you, there is a version of yourself that you think, you know what, I should really do more of this. Not necessarily who you want to be. Then you have your ideal self. And this is the person that, if there were no restrictions and there was no social pressure and no judgment on you, what kind of person would you actually be? That's the person, the idealistic version of you. And then there is one more, and that's the person that other people actually perceive you to be, right? And that can vary from person to person based on how well they know you, how long they've known you. But there is a version of you out there that everybody that knows who you are perceives you to be. And that's the person that we're really concerned with modifying, or that's the version of yourself that we're concerned with modifying when it comes to personal brand, right? And so if you can't just say be authentic, because that doesn't mean anything. You've got to say, okay, well, what specifically do I want known about me ahead of time? Or what do I want people to think about me? Not necessarily maybe what I am, but we'll talk about that more in a minute. So creating a really solid personal brand has 4 components to it. Now I'm going to dumb this down. So for clients that I work with, we go way deeper on every one of these, but I want to give you a rough overview so you can start working on it for yourself. The first one is an opinion. So every good personal brand has an opinion, preferably one that is counter to prevailing wisdom. So in your industry, in your market, in your niche, whatever you want to call it, most of the people who are at the top are people who have been doing it a really long time. And a lot of the ideas that they have, the way of thinking, their processes for doing things are somewhat outdated. And so what I recommend you try and do is come up with what's called a transformational point of view. Your opinion should both transform someone's thinking, elevate their thinking, and be significantly different than what most other people out there in the market, especially those in the at the top, those top folks, especially the ones that they hold. So, um, let's come up with a simple one here. Let's say that you're in the health space. Maybe it's fitness, maybe you're a doctor, maybe you're a nutritionist, and you decide that you want to come up with a transformational point of view. Well, at the very basic level, we could say that Americans are eating too much and that needs to change, right? So we're overweight and unhealthy because we eat too much. Okay, that's an opinion. That's a point of view. It's not a very compelling one. We could add a little bit of specificity to that and create something a little bit more intriguing. So we could say that the processed foods are making Americans fat, and we need to change the way that we eat. Right. So more specific. Now we have a specific culprit, right? Processed foods, and we have a better outcome, which is to change the way people eat. But that's still not very transformational, is it? Because everybody kind of knows that. I mean, even if they still eat unhealthy, they know deep down inside that, yeah, I shouldn't be eating this stuff. And so we can go one level deeper and we can say, the American agricultural industry is colluding with big business in order to intentionally deceive the American public about the health risks of the food that it produces in order to profit off the backs of America's ill health. Right? Now that is a rather transformational point of view. It's somewhat conspiratorial, isn't it? I'm going to give you another one here in a second that's less conspiratorial, but the reason I bring this up is because inside of that, if you ask most people, hey, why is that third one so much more compelling? They'll say it's way more specific, right? Or maybe because it's got conspiracy in it. And both of those are true, but the real reason the third one is so much better in terms of creating a transformational point of view is because it identifies or it uses 3 psychological triggers that make it more appealing and more likely that people will follow you. Okay. And on the one case, one of the triggers, there's 7 triggers, but this one has 3 in it. So the first trigger is that it creates a scapegoat. See, if there's secret knowledge that that you aren't aware of, or that people are deliberately deceiving you, well, now all of a sudden it's not your fault that you overeat. It's not your fault that you're overweight or that you're in ill health. It's the fault of the secrecy that you've been misled. So that's one of the triggers. The second trigger is that it creates there's a sense of secret knowledge, right? So in creating the scapegoat, we also reveal secret knowledge, and this is one of the 7 psychological triggers. Is we want to know secret knowledge, to know things that other people don't know. And so you allude to the fact in your statement that, hey, there's secret information out there that's being withheld from you that's causing you to make bad decisions. And then the last one is that it creates a common enemy. So not only do we know who the culprit is, we also know that there's secret information that if we follow this person, this personal brand, that will be revealed to us. And we also know who it is we need to point on our anger and our action towards, right? And so it is impossible, I was about to say really hard, but it's impossible to create any kind of movement without a common enemy. You can read a great book on this if you want to read it. Is called True Believer by Eric Hoffer. And he goes into great detail about mass movements and what it takes to orchestrate one. And having someone to blame, someone to point your anger and discontent at is an essential component of that. Okay. Now, let me give you another one in terms of, because this is the hardest part of this, right? Is figuring out what your transformational point of view is going to be. Once you get this piece down, the rest of the pieces are much easier. They kind of fall into place. So I've been an entrepreneur for about 15 years. And I believe in a concept called entrepreneurial minimalism. And I came up with this concept because I was looking around at most of the entrepreneurs that I knew, and most of them were very unhappy. And if you ask most entrepreneurs why they decided to go into business, they will tell you one of two things. Either they wanted more control over their time, right? So they just wanted more freedom and flexibility in their time. You can call that control. Or they wanted to do more meaningful work. So they wanted to work on stuff that they were actually interested in and made them feel better about themselves. So we can call that fulfillment. So either control or fulfillment. But the problem is the way entrepreneurship is taught, most of the people, the vast majority of entrepreneurs don't end up getting to do those two things. They end up with a business that controls them, mired down into day-to-day work and overhead and stresses that they never wanted when they started the business. And that's because the way business is taught is it's taught as though everybody who's starting a business wants to have the next unicorn company, that they're trying to build the next $100 million business. And the truth is, most entrepreneurs don't want to run a $100 million business. They only want to run a $10 million business. What they want is they want to wake up every day and have as much control over their time as possible, to spend the time that they're working doing fulfilling work that's meaningful to them. And I add on to that income mobility, which is a flexibility to move and to travel and do things that not be fixed in one spot. And so I came up with this transformational point of view that we shouldn't be trying to look at growth rate and measuring growth rate as a way of determining how successful we are. That is not the amount of revenue that you make that matters. It's not how big the company is or how many countries you're in. The only thing that matters is how much time, how much freedom, fulfillment, and income mobility does this business provide you? So see, that's much different than anything that's being taught right now. It creates a common enemy in the current way it's being taught and other people who are teaching business the way they're teaching it, right? It creates a scapegoat. It says, hey, it's not your fault. This is the way you were taught to do it. This is the measuring stick everybody uses. It's just wrong, right? And so what is that for you? Where is your transformational point of view, right? So once we have an opinion, now we can develop a mission for what we've been called to do. Because if you've done a good job and you've created a really solid TPOV, well, now you have to be on a mission, don't you? You have to be on a mission because this can't stand. The way things currently are cannot stand. And speaking of that, that's a great way to think about your transformational point of view. If you're just having trouble coming up with one, start listing out all of the things that are wrong with your industry. From how people think about it, to how they talk about it, to how the products are sold, they're packaged, how they're delivered, how the infrastructure that's used, the marketing that's used, everything that you think is just messed up and backwards, write it down. And then just ask yourself, what would need to be true in order for none of these problems to exist? And if you start from that perspective and work backwards, sometimes that's all it takes to come up with a really compelling transformational point of view, okay? Once you have that, now we have to be on a mission, right? Because we can't allow this to stand. We have to be there. We are going to solve this problem. We are going to fix this pain that people are in. And we can't do anything less because of the transformational point of view, okay? So what is your mission? Are you on a mission to save America from the corporatists, the food corporatists? Are you there to heal America's pain by inventing a new formula that solves arthritis? Are you on a mission, as I am, to help business owners lead more fulfilled and meaningful lives? What is the mission? The mission ties directly into the transformational point of view. So you've got opinion, transformational point of view, and then you've got mission. The third one is method. What is the step-by-step process for accomplishing the mission? See, every good personal brand, every good leader, anyone worth following has a specific way of doing things. And this is the only way we do it. Now, there might be 10 other ways to do it out there, but you have your own way of doing it. And anybody who comes to you and follows you follows your method, your step by step process. Okay. And then the last one, the very last one after all the rest of that, when it comes to personal brand, is personality. What sort of personality traits do I want people to think of when they think of me? And again, people go back to being authentic. I just think that's the wrong approach. I think it is better for you to think of yourself as a caricature. We've all been to the carnival and seen the graphic artist that creates the caricature, big forehead, big nose, huge ears. It's when you look at a caricature, you look at it, you're like, yeah, that's me. Like I can tell that's me, but it's definitely it's a more interesting, it's a more entertaining version of me, right? See, I'm not a big believer in lying about who you are. I think that down the road, number one, it's not very ethical to do it. But number two is down the road, it can cause you a lot of problems. There are many people have destroyed their careers by pretending to be something that they really aren't. But what I love doing is I love helping people figure out what traits they already have that they really want to be known for, and then helping them to accentuate those traits. So, for example, one of the things I am somewhat introverted. I would say I'm more introverted than not. But definitely, if you put me in a crowd or a group of people, I'm going to be very introverted. And so when I go places and I meet people, I want to preempt some of them feeling like I'm an a-hole because I'm just very uncomfortable in big social settings. And so what I'll do is I build up this sense that I'm super introverted. I'm so introverted. I lock myself in a room and this is where I spend all of my time. And I prefer not to talk to anybody if I didn't have to. Like I really play up the introverted part of my personality. And the only reason I do it is so that when I'm in public and I'm meeting people who've been watching my stuff and listening to my podcast, or maybe have been in a course, taking a course that I've done, I don't want them to feel like I didn't like talking to them. I want them to immediately be like, oh yeah, yeah. What I really want is the other side. I want to be like, wow, he was really great. He was so friendly and nice. I know how introverted he is. He just seemed like he was having a really good time. That's what I want. And so I play that up. Um, I would also say that I play up my Irish kind of like nature a little more than it is. I'm a pretty happy and, go lucky kind of guy. But a lot of times I have this kind of gruff personality that I portray again, because number one, it's helpful in many times in my industry and with the work that I do that people are okay that I don't have some tact, because sometimes I have to be a little tactless in the way I explain things. And so that's helpful. But again, more than anything, it's just because when people meet me, I want them never to feel like I was a jerk. And so, just in case, so I do that. So my point is, what are those characteristics that you really want known about you? Are you arrogant? Are you kind? Are you quick to anger? These are good and bad traits, right? They can't all be good. Superman would be really boring without kryptonite, right? Batman would be really boring without, the nightmares. Almost every great character that you see has some sort of flaw in their character. Even if you look at somebody like Sherlock Holmes in the books, Sherlock Holmes was brilliant, but he also had zero tact, and he was also a heroin addict. So he was opium. And so he was constantly going weeks or months just on benders before he got a case that he wanted to work on. So come up with those personality traits. Again, don't lie about who you are, but decide what you want to be known for and then carefully craft that. And then once you have all four of those, so now we have an opinion, that transformational point of view, we have a mission that we're on, we have a step-by-step method for getting the result or solving the pain or problem in other people's lives, and we have the personality traits that we want to be known for. Once you've done that, now you take that out into the market And in all of your communications, your podcasts, your social media posts, your blog posts, newsletters you write, conversations you have with potential clients and current clients, you use that brand and you use those traits in that process to talk about yourself. And if you do that consistently enough, people will start repeating it and you'll start to develop a reputation as a certain type of person who solves a certain type of problem that's very different than what anybody else in the market is doing. And that is how you actually create a solid personal brand. Again, very cursory. I know I don't even know how long I've been talking here. It feels like it's been forever, but we're just scratching the surface to this, but it's such a big problem that I see. I felt like it would be good to come and talk about it. So go and do those 4 things, start working through that process and see if it doesn't improve the response you get from people as you start to take that brand out into the market.